Welcome to Business Success in the AI Virtual World, the podcast where immersive technology meets real-world results. I'm Tim Beharon, Chairman of Creative Strategies, a leading high-tech analyst firm based in Silicon Valley. I'm here with Barton Goldenberg, President of ISM, thought leaders in customer strategy based in Washington, D.C. Together, we explore how AI and spatial computing, including AR, VR, and XR, are transforming businesses across every sector, from manufacturing and medicine to customer service training and beyond. Each podcast episode features case studies of companies who are using AI and spatial computing to solve problems, scale operations, and reimagine what's possible. Whether you're a business leader, a tech strategist, or an innovation enthusiast, you've found your front row seat to the future. Let's dive in. This week, Barton and I are going to share a little bit about our visit and trip to AWE last week. Both of us were speakers and were actively involved in a lot of discussions and panels and individual scenarios where we were trying to get as much information about what's going on in the world of augmented reality and XR reality, etc. Let me start with my perceptions and what I saw. And I actually wrote a piece in Forbes this week that gave my top takeaways. The show itself was pretty interesting. One of the reasons it moved from Santa Clara, California to Long Beach was the Santa Clara Convention Center could only hold about 3,000 people. They had 5,000 attended the convention center in Long Beach. And it was the largest show they've ever had, 250 exhibitions, 400 speakers. The quality of speakers were exceptional. But one takeaway is that the term spatial was really promoted at AWE. This year, it took the back seat to the term XR. And it does appear that AWE in general, and the industry in general, is beginning to move the concept of all things augmented with XR as the definitive term to describe it. So the show itself had a tremendous amount of focus. Everywhere you went, XR was being promoted. The other thing that was really important, I thought, in this year's show that was not there, it was mentioned last year, but now had a real deep theme, was that artificial intelligence was a key part of this integration between XR and AI. I mean, it's really clear that artificial intelligence is impacting just about everything. And you can imagine, of course, it's going to be impactful for what's going on in augmented reality worlds. So many of the sessions focused on dedicated AI XR. Some were on how AI was being used to create XR content. And those sessions were really important in my mind in the sense of how people are going to integrate artificial intelligence and use it within a XR environment. That was a good part of the show, and I think it's going to be even bigger next year. There was another one that I thought was really interesting. Jason McQuiggan from Lenovo brought up the importance of something that we in the tech sector, and this is something I've been beating the dead horse on for a long time, is when we create products, we tend to create them because we believe we can, and we think there's a market, but we very seldom deal with the human factor. How is this going to affect someone? How are they going to use it? And Jason had a fascinating session that really discussed just how this technology is going to help individuals go beyond their five senses to deal with their world. And I thought that was fascinating. The fact that we really are having to evolve ourselves with a technological boost, no other way to put it. But, we're going to be able to be walking around and looking in through the glasses or using AI to talk to the glasses and say, what am I seeing? What is this flower? The whole thing of impacting our senses. And anyway, I thought that that was a good session in its own right. And I agree that we in tech in general, but even probably more so in the XR space, I need to take a hard look at how this technology is going to actually impact the human experience. And I think that's fascinating. Barton, what do you think about that?
Well, I think it's essential. You go to the Gen Z, what will soon be the Gen Alpha, and this is how they expect to do things. At work, at home, they'll continue to play their games. They'll see the advancements and get better headsets and expect better experiences in the immersive world. They'll come home. They'll do their own thing. They may meet up again back in some sort of an immersive environment. They may go out to a bar in person. But I think this is just a normal progression based on the demographics and the whole Gen Z, Gen Alpha push.
Yeah, I do too. I just think it's going to be one of the more dramatic because if you've ever had a friend that you've let them use either the Meta headsets or especially Apple's Vision Pro, they all walk away with, this is amazing. And I don't think they quite get the grasp of the fact that this has the potential of changing their world. And that's why this whole issue of augmented reality and extended reality and virtual reality is so important in everything. And in context of what we're doing here, it impacts the business process. There's no question that this is going to have a dramatic impact, not only on training, but on every aspect of that. And I think Barton will get into that a little bit later.
I will.
I had a session that I felt was quite important, and we got a lot of feedback on it as really great. But it was a main stage session on panel on Thursday where we talked about smart glasses and the future of smart glasses. And that's one other theme that has evolved in this show to become actually a big deal. In fact, the entire opening session on Tuesday morning with Ori and the group of people there were on just smart glasses. It was fascinating. And it included Snap spectacles with even Siegel, with X-Real. And this particular show has the potential of becoming a really interesting one in the sense that I wrote a piece in Forbes not long ago called Face Computing. And I made the point that in the past, we've actually had two other major computing platforms, PCs, smartphones, and we're about to have a third one, which I call face computing, where we're going to put something on our head, and that's going to be our third screen. And that's going to be something that's going to be an important part of our future digital world. The show seems to have understood that and elevated it to a big part of it. And so my particular session was on that. And I defined that our session laid out about three key points of what we have today. And the title of the smart glasses today and in the future. Today we have three-ish, four-ish type smart glasses. We have the consumer glasses, which are basically what the Meta Wayfarers are, that are just AI driven. And that's a really good opportunity to use. And in fact, the panel felt that that was going to be the dominant smart glasses platform over the next year or so. The second one was what came from X-Real, what they use what's called birdbath lenses. And this lets you take what you plug it into your iPhone or your iPad or your laptop, and it gives you the screen in front of you in 100 to 200 inches with a 70-degree field of view. And it's like looking up and seeing an incredible, and by the way, you could do multiple monitors that way, and for either working or entertainment. And then the third smart glasses is the ones that will have the lenses in them. And you'll actually see the content in the lens as you are walking or driving or whatever. And our panel dug into that metaphor of face computing and these type of glasses. It became really clear that this, as a new computing platform, while in its early stages, is actually making significant progress. Meta sold 2 million Wayfarer glasses already, and they're going to sell at least another million this year. X-Real sold 600,000 of their glasses in the last 2 years. So the interest is high. And when I went on the show floor, we saw a lot of the newer smart glasses. I think there was about 20 mentioned total. And all in all, the show itself is evolving dramatically. I made a statement at the end of my column, which is actually, I would call it pompous prediction. But I've gone through two types of major trade shows that I've been involved with. One was Comdex, and that was strictly PCs. The second one was CES, which was all things, but especially most recently included a lot of other personal computing ideas that included this last year where Barton and I spoke, that also included a whole track on XR and VR. I was thinking, we've had those two types of shows. It would be interesting if AWE could become the next big show on personal computing because our eyes, our face is going to be the next platform that we're going to try to build for in the future. Anyway, bottom line, it was a great show. It was 3 days, ran 3 days in Long Beach. And, it was a fun type of show to be at where there was a lot of energy, a lot of excitement, an incredible opportunity to learn. Now, Barton, you had a lot more work on the business side, which you should, because I have to cover everything. But you have the opportunity to look at the business sector. Tell me what your perception was of this year's show. And then,
Yeah,
you and I've been there. This is our 5th year, I believe.
it is. So I want to first say I remain fascinated how well you assess a conference and an exhibition quickly, and you do it with great accuracy, great coverage. I just say bravo. That's a wonderful skill for all of us. So from my side, let me make a couple of comments on what Tim said, and then I want to go into a couple of comments or observations that Tim did not talk about. So one thing you raised it, Tim, the movement from spatial computing back to XR. And you can tell the folks the story. I understood it, I could be wrong, that Tim Cook really coined the term spatial, and it might have been a way to dull the metaverse that was booming at the time.
Right.
And then, they realized the metaverse isn't booming as it was. And so they went back to XR. But what's the whole story behind it?
Well, the term spatial has actually been used in the augmented world for 2 decades. But Tim Cook is the one who popularized it when he used it in the context of the Vision Pro. And so that's where it got a lot more boost. And so the AWE guys, right after the Vision Pro came out, started to adopt that to separate themselves from the metaverse, which was starting to decrease in the context of its value as a term. And so AWE took 2 years and popularized the word spatial. They did not take it out of their promotional information, but you could see now, as I stated, that the show is evolved now to make, and this is really important, the term XR is going to be the term I think we as an industry are going to adopt to explain everything augmented.
So my point on that one is I think that's going to happen too, by the way. And maybe when Apple relaunches their headset and or smart glasses, they'll go back to spatial. We'll have to see. But the industry needs to settle down. And the reason is the consumer needs to feel as if it's an industry that's well-defined and it can change within, but they don't want something chaotic going from spatial to XR, then maybe to John and Susan and Debbie. They just want to, so I think that was one point I took away. The second point was some great main stage keynotes and panels. When Ori opened the show, he's the founder of Ori Inbar. He's the founder of AWE. He provided what I'd call a motivational opening address where he said he creates T-shirts for the press and for speakers, and he proclaimed on that T-shirt, "XR has gone mainstream now," or something like this. And I think he really is of the belief, and many who spoke are of the belief that this is no longer being done in, as skunk works or anything like that. This is fully out. There's great companies in the industry. The amount, and I'll go through what I mean in it. So here we go. There was a great keynote from the general manager of XR at Qualcomm. His name was Zaid Ashkar, and he painted new ways he sees XR future. And he went through how they're developing unique chips for unique glasses, working very closely with Samsung and with XReal and other such companies to create an even better experience. And Qualcomm, of course, benefits tremendously from all of this effort. I thought another great keynote was from Evan Siegel. He's the co-founder of Snap. And he discussed the many new developments Snap is and will take to remain a pioneer in the XR industry. They revealed their spectacles, new glasses. But look, again, I've always said part of this industry is just plain old fun. And I'll tell you something, Snap, plain old fun. I think it was good, but they're also, I think, doing some pretty sophisticated technology. Is that a fair statement, Tim?
No, absolutely. And they already have some of the best smart glasses out there. But to be fair, they really focused on gaming. And unlike VR headsets, these are actually augmented reality. I mean, you can see through them, and they're really glasses that you walk around and do it. They had quite a big presence at the show. But even Spiegel's keynote, I thought, was significant. The fact that the spectacle segment of it was an important part of the show.
Yeah, it really defines something new. Okay, another Greek. I happen to love Niantic. That's Pokemon Go's parent. But another great keynote came from their CTO, who painted the vision for their new division, Niantic Spatial, which is now using more powerful drones, no surprise with that, and smartphones, so they're taking more smartphone pictures, people are, and sending them in, to achieve a more precise mapping. And when you think about it, if you can achieve a more precise mapping quickly, while you and I are walking the streets of Washington, D.C. or San Francisco, we can get a much better picture of where we are, what's around us, where we can go. And so they're big on that, and they've got, I think, I'm certainly the largest geospatial data structure base in the world. So just, you got to keep your eye on Niantic's Spatial. Now, there was one other family that spoke at this outing. It was a friend of Tim's, in fact. His name is Neil Bushnell.
No,
but
Nolan.
It's the dad.
No,
He's the,
Nolan Bushnell.
Nolan, I'm sorry. I beg your pardon, Nolan. And he's been a friend of Tim's for a while, since Nolan founded Atari, and it really changed the whole way the world plays games today. But it's a wonderful family story. There's I think 6 of the kids, they're not kids, they're 40s and 50s, but that are in the business and have followed their father's footsteps. And, in any family, I don't care how much you love each other, there's always going to be disagreements and disputes, and that was visible on stage. But it was a wonderful discussion of a family, 3 generations, all sitting on the stage and telling their story. So I really enjoyed that. And then Tim didn't give himself enough due credit, but Tim, who as you may know is the chairman of Creative Strategies, he held a main stage panel that focused on this current and future state of smart glasses. And his panelists, Lenovo, Meta, and XReal, and I guess, provided some great insight into this topic. And that all of the sessions, mine, his, and others, were videoed, and I think they'll be up on the AWE site, and or they eventually find their way to YouTube. So if you missed it because you couldn't make it, unfortunately, you'll have a chance to look at it. Okay, a couple of just observations from me. I thought that there were really great panel discussions, and that humbly included mine. So mine was all about how businesses are using VR training to drive visible results or measurable results. And I had 3 panelists: Jenny Taylor, who runs the virtual crew in the XR lab at Duke Energy; Johan Cruz, the XR business development manager at Volvo Trucks out of Sweden; and Courtney Harding, a VR training SME. And it was amazing to hear what Jenny and Johan talked about as they told the story of Duke Energy and Volvo and how they get involved in training, and how it's progressed and who it's gone out to and how many are using it and what comes next for these two companies. I'll summarize it by making the following observation. In the case of both Volvo and Duke Energy, and for those that don't know Duke Energy, that's a very large energy company. It's out of South Carolina, but I think they're nationwide now. I'm not sure, but I'm almost sure. And then Volvo Trucks is the division of Volvo that produces all of their trucks, both in Scandinavian countries where it's sold, but also in the U.S. under the truck brand. There's many truck brands that it's under, so it's a great company. Anyhow, they both got into the VR training business as COVID hit. And the reason is, on both of these companies, if you want to create a new substation, your Duke Energy, that's a very, very high risk, safety focused area. And so they use VR training to train everybody on the risk and the just how to be careful, safety precautions, various procedures that had to be followed on VR. And they found some amazing results. Like, people were much, much happier using this training even before COVID. When they had to go to a classroom and sometimes they couldn't make it, or the class changed, or there were different reasons. But today they have several thousand technicians, Volvo technicians, that are using VR training. The latest has been for their Volvo truck, their electric truck. And that's unmanned. It drives right now in Texas. And all of that training on how to ready the truck to see and work, and under the people to see the whole kind of the truck coming together with its components and comment on it and enhance it. They said that's been a godsend. And then, so that's a mix. That's Volvo truck example. I gave you the Duke Energy but both of them came in because of COVID. And now that they're doing it, and it's 3 years later from the end of COVID, they're still doing it, and to the tune of, I think Jenny said, Jenny's the one that said there were 3,000 technicians trained, and Johan from Volvo Trucks said that he has 5,000 technicians trained. And I think it's pretty amazing. These are great companies in their own right. They have adopted VR training as the way to do training. And I asked them, will all training be gone by 2028, classroom training? They both said no, but there'll be an increased push towards VR training because it's one that has ample measurable results, whether it's decreasing from weeks to days or months to weeks, whether it is decreasing costs by up to 75%, whether it is increasing retention by up to 60%, whether it's driving confidence in the end user, and the end users, the contact center reps, by the PwC study said 275%. So there's all the data is there, and it's repeated. And Jenny's company also did a recent research study for Duke Energy that confirmed all these numbers. So it's here. It's a part of what they do. New divisions are asking to get involved. She even turned, or the management team asked her to turn the experience from Duke Energy and sell it to other energy companies or other manufacturing companies because it's so well done. Well, anyhow, that was one of them. What comes next for the two companies, it was interesting. I asked them to give me thought leadership, and Jenny said, it's pretty boring, but we're going to continue what we do and do it better and better. And Johan said, we're going to continue what we're doing in VR training and do it better in new divisions. So I thought it was a very interesting insight. Okay, and the last one I want to talk about is the new highly successful enterprise VIP track. Now, this is a no sales track, open to executives only. So if you had a certain level of being an executive, you couldn't be any type of vendor, and you kind of check the boxes, then you were invited to join the track. It was in a large room. It had there was no sales at all discussed or mentioned. No salespeople would come in. So we'll call it like a safety zone, if you want to look at it that way. Now, more than 220 executives from the greatest companies in the world attended this VIP track, and that really speaks, I think, for itself. And Tim made the point that I'm more the business guy. He's more the technical guy. The conference is still more technical, but when you bring in 220 executives, I think that speaks for itself as part of where the show is going as well. In addition to providing the VIPs with pre-planned exhibition hall tours by industry, so if you're in the defense industry, you went on one tour. If you're in the biotech industry, you went on a different tour of the various technologies. There are also multiple expert roundtables that were facilitated throughout the Enterprise VIP program. I was happy to be selected by AEW to be one of the Enterprise VIP experts, during which time I facilitated a very interesting session on scaling VR training across the enterprise. So the panel was about success stories in VR training, but the roundtable was about scaling it. And again, many, many interesting insights. That too, actually that one wasn't recorded, but I will say that having a good CEO or executive sponsor who is keeping their foot to the pedal on making sure that the progress moves forward is absolutely critical to scaling it. Having a management company that can follow the various equipment headsets that are around the world, not all of them are always the same. This is all very important. But I was interested to tell you that sitting at my table, and for those of you that have listened to the podcast, you know I'm an old Jaguar car collector, but sitting at the table next to me was a gentleman who was from Aston Martin's F1 racing track team. And you may know that Aston Martin stole many of the Jaguar designs to build some of their beautiful cars, but this guy was telling us some fantastic stories. So overall, Tim, I think, and we started, as you said, 5 years ago, I think there might have been maybe broke 1,000 people that attended. We're at 5,000 now, and all the rest of the numbers, the speakers and the exhibitors were much, much lower. AW is hot. It's red hot. And I think, as you said, I don't even think it was being provocative. They're going to continue to grow and become a technology place to be, a developer place to be. And if the current Enterprise VIP session or section was any indication, that too will grow in the years to come. So I would, again, encourage all of you that are listening to our podcast and friends to either join us and pay, or join the Enterprise VIP program. And if you qualify, don't pay. But it's a great show and worthy of you participating in Long Beach, California.
Barton, I was thinking one thing that it also helped validate us, our website, our resource center, as well as the podcast. Our focus is people using XR today, not gonna use it. They're using it. And when you put these kind of stories out, there's a lot of companies out there who are sitting there and they're not doing anything on this. And, we've been promoting this for ages, but saying you can't sit on the sidelines anymore. You've really got to move forward. This show really underscored this. I mean, every type of session you can imagine. Industry was there, every industry, medical, training, sales, service. All of them were there telling what they were doing and what they are doing.
Yep.
And then looking for ways to do it better. That's what AWE is really about, is how do I become more effective? I mean, your session was how to, what was it called, monetize, or the
how to measure business success.
Measure business success, yeah. And I do think AWE is evolving into something pretty significant. And it'll be fun to watch it as it continues to grow.
On the three resources you mentioned, Tim, folks, I would encourage you to go to ismguide.com. So ismguide.com. And on the top of every page are the three things that Tim alluded to. One is our podcast. This is it. Two is it's called AI and the Spatial Computing Resource Center. And there you'll find all kinds of things on VR training that I did, but it'll also cover all of Tim's articles from Forbes and many, many other developments and latest news and case studies from something to the tune of 350 companies. They're all success stories. They're all worth listening to. And the third source was one, just because I was in VR training, that we wrote a white paper on kind of how to work your way through VR training. And there's buttons on the top of each of the pages of ismguide.com that'll directly connect you either to the resource center or to the podcast or to the guide. So I would encourage you to take a visit.
Well, thank you for joining us this week, and we look forward to being with you in our next podcast.
Thanks for tuning in to Business Success in the AI Virtual World with Barton and Tim. If your team is ready to explore the power of AI and XR, we offer 4 services to help you launch, implement, and scale your AI XR efforts. First, a custom executive briefing to align your leadership team on where to go next. Second, a strategic roadmap for successful implementation and competitive advantage. Third, a proof of concept to demonstrate the art of the possible. And fourth, quarterly advisory briefings to stay ahead of emerging tech and use cases. To learn more, contact us at contact@ismguide.com and be sure to explore our growing library of over 300 use cases, over 250 articles, and over 140 videos in the AI and XR Resource Center. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of business in the AI virtual world.